different projects that are taking place, and ask, especially during this August, it's hot, and we just pray that you would shade them and protect them and strengthen them for that work. Thank you for our first responders who serve sacrificially to care for our neighbors and our members of this community. We pray your blessing on them and pray your blessing on this council and leadership and the administration and all those who are doing just a wonderful job to support us. And we lift up thanks to you and pray that you would bless this meeting as we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. Item D is audit participation. That is covered on there. Anybody who wishes to speak on any of the agenda items may fill out a form over there by the chief. You've got a form here if you want to speak, and I will recognize you at the appropriate time. Moving forward to the consent agenda. A is action regarding minutes of July 29th. B is action regarding minutes of August 5th. D is action regarding multi-year drone show contract. D is action regarding ordinance 2025-11, exemption to the prohibition of the sale of alcohol. Any questions, comments on the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as read.
Thank you, Paul. Fowler, second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes. Let the record reflect we do have a quorum this evening. Councilmember Sean Morrison is out of town, but everyone else is here, so thanks for coming, folks. Okay, we're going to go to 3, and I'm going to do a little bit of a switcheroo on 3 based on timing for some folks. We're going to do 3B first. 3B, laws governing public information requests. City Attorney Bryn Meredith.
This, my partner Alicia Cray is here. She's just out in the lobby and will come in. Here she is, and is going to conduct the presentation.
Hi everyone, sorry about that, full crowd this evening, so tried to not take up any extra space for the public to be here. As Bryn mentioned, my name is Alicia Cray. Thank you for having me tonight. I sent a presentation over. It's a number of slides and was asked to get through it fast, so I am from the Midwest originally. I'm going to put that cadence on tonight, so if you need me to slow down, just wave at me. So the Public Information Act, or as we lovingly refer to it as the PIA in our office, is governed by Chapter 552 of the Texas Government Code. So what is it? This is the law that gives the public the right to request information from the city. There's a process that must go through and must follow under that act, and then the act also defines the scope of what records can be released to the public. So what is the process? First, you have to have a written request. It must ask for information that's in existence. So the law does not require that the city create anything new to respond to a request. That often is requested. We want a spreadsheet, put it in this format, give us all this information. The city doesn't have to do that. It's only information that already exists that has to be provided. And then those requests do not have to contain any magic words. So we're just looking at it, what is asked for, and providing that to a requester. So the public can ask for copies of the information. They can ask to also come in and inspect information at City Hall. That's their choice. And once the request is received, the city has a few options, and we call them tools in their tool belt to help with responding to requests. Those are the city can release the information that's asked for. If it's not clear or it's voluminous, the city can ask for clarification, asking that requester, we don't quite understand what you're looking for, or there's a lot of information here. Can you narrow it down to try to alleviate costs and make sure they're actually getting what they're asking for. If those requests stay large, the city can ask for to recoup costs and send a cost estimate if it exceeds $40. And then there's also the option that if the request contains confidential information, and we'll go over that in a few minutes what that is, to submit a request to the Office of the Attorney General for a ruling as to what can or cannot be released out of that information. So release of information, the act says it must be done promptly, so that's as soon as possible under the circumstances. We normally are working off of the 10-day business day rule. That's the amount of time a city has to submit a request to the ruling to the Attorney General's office. If you can get it out sooner, that's great, but that's kind of the general timeline we're looking for. And then I'm going to kind of just skip over the clarification and cost estimate slides. We just talked about those real quick. And so your fourth option, which is when your city invokes our office and asks us for help, is when we're submitting a request to the Attorney General's office for a ruling. So the general rule for public information request is that city records are public, except when they're not. So the statute makes a lot of exceptions, and there's a lot of other laws that also make exceptions for what information is confidential, and there's a number of considerations from being able for the city to conduct its business, and then also recognizing that the city deals with the public. And there's a lot of concerns of the public of their personal information that ends up in city records that we don't want to release. So those two considerations are looked at under the act. So as I mentioned before, we have 10 business days to submit a request for a ruling to the Attorney General's office if that contains confidential information. So what happens if we miss that deadline? There are two types of exceptions. Those that are mandatory, which the law says this information can never be released. You don't waive those. What could potentially happen is discretionary exceptions are waived. So if it's a report regarding litigation that the city is engaged in, or if it's a law enforcement record exception, for example, oftentimes if it's an active case, we'll ask the Attorney General to withhold the information because it could interfere with law enforcement. Those types of exceptions are waived if we don't comply with that 10-day deadline. And so the scope of the PIA, what all does it apply to? It's written, produced, collected, assembled, or maintained records. So anything from the government body created for or by the government body that they have a right of access to. So one of the things that has also been implemented in the past few years is the temporary custodian rule. And so that's a few slides up, I guess. Sorry, there we go. So this is what really applies to you as city council members, is that any information of the city that you store on your personal devices or that's within your City of Saginaw email addresses is subject to the Public Information Act if it's related to city business. So oftentimes we will see requests come in that say, we want all emails between council members about a certain topic. And so what would happen was the city secretary is required to ask you to search your personal devices to see if there's any of those communications. Because what the law has said is that you are now holding that information as a temporary custodian for the city. And if it's about official city business, you have to turn it back. And that can be, right, as you're in your capacity as a council member, pretty broad. You know, one of the things I like to say is, you know, if your neighbor complains about Jerry down the road's grass and how tall that is, can't you do something? Well, technically as a council member, that implicates city business because they're asking you to act on in your role as a council member.
So for data, is there any policy of how long the city has to maintain the data?
Yeah, so you have a records retention policy, so that will be different categories of information have to be stored in a different amount of time. So for you as a temporary custodian, you have to follow the records retention policy. A lot of, I imagine, what you're going to have is just as long as is administratively necessary. For example, any of the calendaring, we need you here this evening. And then anything that's already held by the city secretary's office, so, you know, emails that include the city secretary or staff, all of those, you don't have to maintain those. But if it's a separate record, you know, just a private communication between you and another or a citizen, for example, you either need to keep that in compliance with the records retention schedule, which you could ask the city secretary what that is, or take a screenshot and send it to the city secretary's office, and then your duty to maintain that is done, and the secretary can determine how long it needs to be kept. So that was a very good question.
Appreciate it.
So like I said, we're moving fast. What gets released to the public? And this is where the exceptions come in. So the Attorney General has put in some steps to help move the process along further with regards to what is confidential. So they have allowed cities to use what we call the same information previous determination. So if we've already sent that exact information to the Attorney General and gotten a ruling, the facts haven't changed, the circumstances behind the report haven't changed, we can then say to a requester, we've already received an Attorney General ruling on this, here is a copy, here's the information they said could be released. There's also what we call applies to all previous determinations. So there are a number that the Attorney General have said, this information is always private. W-2s, for example. So your personnel, your employee personnel files will have W-2s or their W-4s, that type of information. That's always going to be private. You don't have to send it to us for a ruling. Also motor vehicle information, so license plate numbers, things like that. The Attorney General said that's always going to be private. You don't have to ask us about it. And then they've implemented what we call applies to you previous determinations. And Saginaw has 2 of these to help you process your information more expediently. One is for dates of birth. So that's one of the exceptions. The law has said that private citizens' birth dates are private. But unless you have a previous determination from the Attorney General, every time a police report comes in, you have to send it to the AG for a ruling that says I can withhold that birth date. So Saginaw has gotten a determination that says you can withhold those without having to send that to the Attorney General's office. The other is what we call a 108 PD. That is a law enforcement records exception, where if the case is still active in pending investigation or prosecution, the city it has a process to get through. You have to process it in 5 days and release a certain amount of the information to a requester, but Saginaw can do that without seeking an Attorney General ruling. So those are 2 things that your staff has implemented to help the process move faster for requesters. So here's kind of a list of commonly raised exceptions. I'm not going to go through all of those, but I did, for your purposes, kind of separate those out into what we normally see between City Hall records and Police Department records and what we might claim in any kind of given situation. And so I'm going to kind of go through the ones that we see the most often in police records. So the first is Section 552-101. That's under the Public Information Act that we call what's confidential by other law. So this brings in all of your court cases that have said certain information is confidential, as well as other statutes. The key phrase that the courts use is information that is highly intimate or embarrassing, such that its release would be objectionable to a person of ordinary sensibilities. So we get a lot of frustration with that language, as you could probably imagine, because the public thinks that the city is saying this is embarrassing to us, so we need to withhold it. And that's not the case. What that's saying is the information that this is a person who this is about, because it's often police reports, it's not about the city, it's about somebody in that police report, and there's information about that individual that's intimate or embarrassing, or of no legitimate public interest. So that's what that first exception is. We raise it almost every police report, and it applies to dates of birth, intimate or embarrassing. Can you imagine how often we get complaints from a requester? Because what could possibly be intimate or embarrassing? Sorry, it's someone's birthday. And so that's kind of how broad that applies. It also includes pregnancy, suicide, sexual assault, mental health issues, suicide reports. So all of those things that you could think of that would go, nobody needs to know this about somebody else, all come under that common law exception.
Can you go back to the previous slide?
Yes.
At the bottom, it said no legitimate public interest. How is that defined?
Great question. It's not. So we often say in our office that the Public Information Act is more of an art than a science, and it often depends on who in the Attorney General's office is reviewing information as to how broadly they believe that this exception applies. Over the years, we've kind of formulated our own guessing as to what those rulings look like. So for medical information, our kind of guidepost is it an illness versus an injury, and an illness would come under medical information, whereas an injury may not, because you'll heal from a sprained ankle, it might not be embarrassing. Whereas if you're permanently disabled, the Attorney General is going to have you withhold that kind of information. So I would wish I could give you a definitive answer, but we are still trying to figure out what the AG does sometimes.
So for health-related issues, whether it's, let's say I have Crohn's disease or I fell and broke my leg, all of that would fall under HIPAA, wouldn't it? Which is federal.
So no, HIPAA is only medical records.
Okay.
So if you're reading through a police report, and their
Okay.
police report talks about, we arrived on the scene of a car accident, this individual had a concussion, they were suffering a stroke, and this person had, a sprained pinky. We would certainly be sending in, there's a concussion, there's a stroke, this information, but the pinky is going to be just an injury that the Attorney General's probably not going to say we could withhold.
Okay.
We'd probably try just to make sure, but for the most part, there's that differential. But if the EMS report is included in that, so the 911 ambulance, that actual medical record, then it invokes the Texas Medical Practices Act, which is our version of HIPAA and those protections. So it depends, it has to be the actual report from the medical provider for that to apply.
Thanks.
Yep. Some other statutes that we often see that require the withholding of all information relates to child abuse records. As you can see, it's kind of that same thing, right? We want to protect the information about the person involved in the report. So child abuse records, unless it is the parent who did not commit or is alleged to have committed abuse, or the legal guardian, that is private. Juvenile law enforcement records, so if someone between the ages of 10 and 17 is a suspect or an offender in a report, that is also private, unless again it's the parent or a legal representative. And then one that we're seeing more and more of is requests for body-worn camera recordings. So the Act, Code of Criminal Procedure, Article 2B.0112 says this is only, the PIA only applies to these when it could be used as evidence in a criminal prosecution. So that is pretty broad when it could be applied, but for example, if you have a car accident where the officers show up on scene and no one's given a citation, it's just an information exchange, that's never going to be used in a criminal prosecution. So the PIA wouldn't even apply to that body camera recording. The request that is received for body camera must have the date and time of the recording, the specific location where it occurred, and the name of one or more persons in the recording. If a request doesn't include all of that information, it's not a valid request and the city doesn't have to process it. And then that article also says that you cannot release any portion of a recording made in a private space. So if you're doing a welfare check and you're going into someone's home, if you're in the back of an ambulance for the medical information, all of those type of places, that would have to be redacted from a body camera recording that's correctly requested and could be subject to using criminal prosecution. And then you cannot release the recording if it involves a conduct that could constitute a misdemeanor by fine only and does not result in arrest. So there are some times where we just can't give out body camera recording. Some of the other discretionary exceptions that are going to be the law enforcement exception, which is that pending investigation. That also applies when the case is closed and there's been no guilty verdict or deferred adjudication. Essentially, could you have to go find somebody else? Could it potentially be opened again? If the city is within litigation over the subject of that information, we can ask the Attorney General to allow us to preserve our interest in litigation and withhold information. If it's an attorney-client communication, only you have the right as counsel to waive attorney-client communications on behalf of the city. So that's, if our office sees those kind of communications, we're always going to raise that because we don't have the discretion to make that call on your behalf. And
I have a question, Rebecca. I'm sorry, I was waiting for you to finish. You never took a breath.
I told you.
On this one, it says a recording involving an investigation of conduct that constitutes a misdemeanor. Okay, say I get pulled over by the policeman. I don't get a ticket at all, but I feel that, that I wasn't treated right, okay? Me as an individual, do I not have a right to request that then? I mean, it's still, I would be denied even though it's a recording of me?
So it's not subject, at that point, it's not subject to the PIA. So there's some discretionary room for the city there if they want to look at that, but what you're looking at is with one of the things we didn't talk about is the exponential growth of public information requests that all of Texas is seeing. And so it is very costly and burdensome for the city. So there are ways, and body camera, and the storage of body camera, and the process of a body-worn camera is one of those very big expenses. So a lot of cities are looking for ways to go, we're going to be strictly compliant with this to avoid that extra expense.
Mm-hmm. So what would a citizen have to do then if they
wanted to change
that evidence? Yeah.
Well,
Would they have to
if
file to the AG themselves?
so the AG doesn't have access to that. One would be writing your legislator and asking for a change to the body-worn camera provisions. The other is if you're actually going to file a lawsuit against a municipality, then your attorney would have the ability to get that through the discovery process. But if it doesn't meet the standard of it's to be used in criminal prosecution, then there is no guaranteed right to that information.
So even though there's body camera footage, unless they're charged with basically a felony, citizens have no right to see that.
No, if it could be used in a criminal prosecution, so, one of the things you might consider is if there are a number of issues that are leading up to a criminal prosecution, even though the first incident didn't result in an arrest, but down the line, that video could be used in prosecution because it's part of a series of events. Or if, for example, there was a citation given, then you are going to be potentially using that in criminal prosecution because that would go through the municipal court system.
Okay, so the only way for the citizen then to get that information, if it is, then they would literally have to sue the city.
No, not necessarily.
Okay, how other way?
So again, if it's going through the municipal court system, you said only if
Okay.
it's a felony. So if there's a lower fine, if it's a citation, all of those types of situations, those are situations where they could still get information because it could be used in prosecution. And then the last one is deliberative process, where that protects the internal policy communications of government officials and council. So what we're looking at there is, is staff weighing different alternatives for an issue and those type of things. I was worried that was me for a second. This slide I have in for you, we talked about those previous determinations where the AG said these are certain kinds of information that can always be withheld. That's what this list is. So I won't go over those again. And then there are some things that is generally always considered public, caveat unless it's not. Names of adult suspects and offenders, name of child and adult witnesses, ages as opposed to dates of birth, phone numbers of members of the public and addresses of members of the public. That's a big one. It doesn't seem to make sense that that information is public, but it is. It's different there are categories of persons, city employees, police officers, peace officers, firefighters, court officials. All of those have their own categories of information to protect their personal information from release because the legislature has recognized that they potentially risk exposure and adverse consequences to them or their families if their information is released. So there is enforcement and penalties. Under the PIA, if the city disagrees with an attorney general ruling, you have the ability to file suit in Travis County challenging the ruling. One of their favorite things to tell us anymore is if you don't agree with us, come sue us. So that has to be filed within 30 days of the day the ruling is received, and the requester can also ask for declaratory relief, asking for information to be released under that. And then for failing to produce information or willful non-compliance with the act, there are fine penalties as well as jail penalties. So we do work with the city closely to make sure that everything is being complied with. Things that we don't want to happen, for example, are like the release of those child-related reports and that type of information that could carry with it fines for not following the rules of the act. And then there, I just provided some resources at the back. My email, the Texas Municipal League, and the Office of the Attorney General, both their hotline and their website that has more information on the PIA as well. So any more questions for me? I know I went really fast.
Good. Any questions for Alicia? Brett, go ahead.
Just one curious question. Why is a child only specified at 10 years or older?
Great question. 10 to 17. It's very strange. We have actually had reports in the past where the child was 8 or 9 and we weren't able to use that exception to withhold their information. So I don't know the logic behind that, but that is what the 5808 of the Texas Family Code defines as the child for that purpose. Yep.
Other questions for Alicia?
No, I appreciate you coming and going over this. It's good information.
There's a lot to it, but always happy to talk about it. This is what I talk about all day, every day, so glad to
I'm
share with
sorry,
you.
but,
I know.
but thank you.
You're welcome.
So everybody's got Alicia's contact. Call her. She put her phone number out there,
I
the office
did.
number, so call or email her if you have any more questions about this. Thank you for that.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
the
It was very
update.
nice to meet y'all tonight.
Appreciate it.
And then, Mayor, could I just add quickly, just so everyone
Yes.
knows the process in our office? And you're,
Okay.
I just want to let you know, occasionally we'll have a requester decide that our office is singling them out and that there's some sort of political vendetta. We're trying to help the city out because the city attorney is handling it. The reality is it goes into a hopper of files, and then we have associates just walk by and grab a file. They don't know who the requester is. They don't know who any of you are. And they're just processing the request in a vacuum. So I just want to share that.
Oh, thank you, Brent.
That's good. I didn't know that. That's good information. So it's really then a blind.
It's totally anonymous. It's shuffled. And
It's just following the rule of law, right?
that's right.
And the law is confusing, as she pointed out, but we do our best. So thank you, Brent. Thank you, Alicia. All right, we're going to go to 3C now. 3C is an update on animal services operation facilities. Jose, take it away, buddy.
So I have a slideshow presentation to do. I'm going to have Joe Stout do the slideshow presentation, and then I'll be here to answer any questions.
So, Mayor, before we get started, I wanted to say one thing, is there seems to be a misunderstanding when this was posted that the council was looking to disband TNRV. All this is today is basically a one-year, how's the program working? What's
Which I
working good?
think we asked for when we started, was come back and give us an update, right?
Come back and give an update. So I just wanted to,
Somebody's
I just,
posting out there that we're trying to knock it down again,
I know,
so I
so-
think that's the case.
So the email that I received
yeah.
stating that this was going to be on tonight's agenda was for an update and/or dissemination of the TNVR, is what I received.
Like,
So-
dissemination is of information. Do you mean,
rescind it.
okay.
So
Gotcha.
that's what I received in the email itself. So I'm gonna let Joe Stout discuss the TNVR update portion of it, and then
Okay.
if you have any questions, I'll.
Excellent. Thank you, Jose.
Okay.
Joe,
Hi.
welcome.
All right, well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity here. I'm Joe Stout. I'm the Chair of the Animal Services Advisory Board. I actually am affiliated with an organization called Mid-Seas Community Cats, but the fact is I love all kinds of animals, and I happened to meet Jose one time at another city's animal shelter, and he said that he was looking for an animal welfare person, which is a required position on the committee. And I said, hey, I'd love to do that, and so that's why I'm here. It's not all just about cats. I care about all animals, so I have my own rescue dog, so anyway. Well, next slide, please. Oh, thank you. Okay, the process is, when the shelter receives a call or complaint, they look into the facts of the matter and they offer assistance with trapping feral and community cats. Feral cat can be a feral, which is a behavior. It's a definition of behavior. It's not a breed or anything like that. Or it can be a stray. A lot of times the strays turn out to be owned cats that somebody had that are, socializable. So anyway, so they determine what the situation is, but they explain to the citizens that Saginaw does have trap, neuter, vaccinate, return as a policy, and so that's the preferred way to deal with a cat situation. The citizens advised to come by the shelter, and if they in a situation where they say, look, these cats are driving me crazy, and I don't want cats here, and I just got a new car, and every time I go look out the window, there's a cat on it. The shelter has some deterrence, and I think that's something that's really good that Saginaw does that they're taking the effort to give people the information to do that, because the organization we're in, the cat organization, deals with a lot of different shelters. Some don't do that, they don't go that far, and they kind of look to us to do that sort of thing. So citizen signs a liability form saying that they wish to trap the cats, to make sure there's no injury involved or anything. And then depending on if the trap's available, an ACO in Saginaw will actually go there and set the traps and check on the traps multiple times. That's very important in the kind of weather we have right now. I mean, Jose, I think you're just not doing it right now, right? Yeah, unless you can sit there and watch the trap the whole time, because it's just not safe for a cat to be in the trap, you know. So, and also in the cold weather, it's the same thing. And again, this is something where Saginaw, I think, has really taken a leadership role in this, that the shelter is able to do that and to get the cats into the pipeline to be spayed and neuter. And the key to that, of course, is the foundation that provides the funding to do the spay and neuter surgeries at a low-cost clinic at Texas Coalition for Animal Protection. So once the trapped cat is identified, it's scanned for a microchip, to make sure it's not somebody's lost pet, and then it's transported to the shelter. If it's already ear-tipped, so it's already been through the TNVR process, then it's released. And if there are other cats in the area, then, the trap is reset, because the tipped ear, I don't know if I skipped over that, but that's how you know the cat has been through the TNVR process. So, traps and kennels. Animal Services currently has 9 kennels that it uses for feral cats, and it has 9 traps. There are 20 residents on the trapping list in Saginaw that have registered to be trappers, and 4 in Blue Mound. So these are volunteers that are out there helping the city, doing this work. Traps, normally, in the better weather, traps are usually set at 6:30 in the morning, and they're checked throughout the day. They're removed at 4:30 unless there's an agreement to leave the traps overnight, which is something, in the more pleasant weather you can do that. Nighttime trapping is a great time, because a lot of times that's when feral cats are really out and about. They're nocturnal animals, really. Colonies. Well, I always shudder a little bit when people use the word colonies, because you get this idea of, it's like, with the English coming to America or something, there's going to be thousands of cats everywhere, and they're on every lamppost and everything. But really, a colony can just be 2 cats. Or, it can really even be 1 cat that somebody's feeding. Saginaw has currently established, Jose and the team at the shelter have been registering the colonies. They have 73 colonies. 10 are in Blue Mound, 63 are in Saginaw. 61 of those are active, 12 are inactive, which means the cats have been removed, for some reason, for adoption or rescue or whatever. Okay, this is a map, and I won't try to explain all this, but it shows you where the colonies are located. And as you can see, they're pretty widely dispersed throughout the city, which is not surprising, because these community cats are everywhere. You don't see them a lot of the time, but they are present. If you went out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, then you would probably see the community cats. But it gives you some idea of how prevalent they are. And that's why you really need a program like TNVR, because you're not going to get rid of the cats. You can have a major effort for a week and trap every cat that you can find and export it out of the city, or, heaven forbid, euthanize it or whatever. But in a short time, cats are going to come back. And our organization has seen this happen. We've had to do, we've helped areas and gone in where they said, hey, we had a bunch of cats here and we thought we got rid of them 2 years ago, and now guess what? We've got more cats than we ever did. So it's called the vacuum effect. And Jose May, he's the expert on this kind of thing. He may want to give you some detail on it. But what it means is there's some conditions there that make this area attractive to community cats. By the way, this works for other animals as well. It works for possums and squirrels and all kinds of wildlife. But you can remove the animals from there. However, the conditions are still there, and so more are going to come back. So the great thing about TNVR is that the cats remain in the area, and cats are territorial animals, and so they will help prevent other cats from coming in. But more importantly, they've been fixed, and so they're not going to be reproducing. And over time, I've heard different different organizations use different numbers, but the life expectation of a feral cat is usually 5 years. And so over time, you have to have patience and do this program, but you're going to see less cats. So this program is not about having more cats in Saginaw. It's actually about having less. Caretakers, these are individuals that look after the colonies, because obviously when these cats have been returned there, they really need someone to look after them and feed them. And so these are caretakers, the colony caretakers. And so there are 5 caretakers currently registered in Saginaw and 2 in Blue Mound. Reality is you probably have a lot more people doing this, because there are a lot of people that love animals and care about cats and do it. But people tend to be a little reluctant to register, because they don't know, they're distrustful. They think, well, they're going to come and take all my cats away and kill them, or they're going to start giving me a ticket or something like that. So people are reluctant. So this program, I think, it's really only been active since last October, and so it's going to take time for people to get trust, and by word of mouth to know that this is it's really in their interest to register as caretakers. Complaints, when they do occur, are handled by the ACOs, the animal control officers. If they're not able to resolve the issue, we have a group, and if you remember when we came here and got this approved, it's called the Kitty Committee, that meets as needed to resolve these matters. And if you have any questions about it, you would ask Jose about that. I'm actually not on the Kitty
I got a
Committee.
couple of questions. So we have 5 caretakers. And if I remember reading some more, the 61 colonies roughly equals out to about 142 cats. So I guess my one question is exactly what does the Kitty Committee do, and what are we doing to get more caretakers? Because to me, that's the backbone, is you got these cat colonies, is getting the animal trapped, getting it vaccinated, neutered, spaded, whichever one it is, and that way that cuts down on disease and it stops the breeding. So, I mean, there's no way that 5 caretakers are handling 61 things. So what are we doing to increase that?
When we receive complaints about people feeding cats, we go out and talk to the person that they're complaining about. As I mentioned in the email that I sent out earlier, it's hard to determine who is actually taking care of the cat, because there's more than one person on the block feeding the cats. We have issues trapping some of the cats for the simple fact that we don't know where the food source is coming from.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're fed, right.
In our ordinance, a community cat means any free roaming cat, regardless of socialization or sociability, cared for by one or more known or unknown residents. So if a cat's over on Asbury Street and it's being cared for on Nathan Street, we're not gonna know who's caring for the cat. Okay?
Right.
We can have assumptions and we can go talk to them if they deny feeding the cat, unless we actually see food there for the cat. We don't know.
Okay.
Okay?
So-
We've
so-
had complaints on Candlestick,
Yeah.
and we've addressed those complaints, and they've quit feeding the cats as far as we know.
Okay.
That doesn't mean they haven't removed the food and put it somewhere else where we can't see it.
So what are we doing to increasing our, because we get data back from these cat caretakers, right?
Correct.
Or anyways, we're supposed to. What are we doing to increase that from, because we definitely don't have enough caretakers. If we only got 5 and we got 61 colonies, the colonies aren't properly being taken care of.
Okay. As far as I'm aware,
Yeah.
okay, the only issue that we have so far as a crisis, according to the email I have here dated August 3rd, is off of North Hampshire Street. Since that time period.
I didn't, let me start, I did not mention that place, don't care about it.
This is where this is all stemming from, is it?
No, actually it ain't. I'm,
Okay.
I'm the one that requested this meeting, and it was just to get a yearly update.
All right, hold on a minute. Mind if I approach you?
Yeah.
You can, if you want to.
Yeah.
Urgent request. visit and rescind T and MVR policy.
Sent from,
So it started with an E40 from somebody else.
Yeah.
okay, so.
So, I mean, my simple question was, what are we doing to increasing our official caretakers of the colonies? It's a very simple question.
When we go out and speak to people, we notify them, they have the option
Okay.
to stop feeding the cats or become a colony caretaker. If they choose to do that, then there's an application they fill out, there's a video they have to watch on proper care and techniques for colony caretakers. Okay? If they do not wish to register, they're asked to stop feeding the cats. However, if there's 15 people on the block feeding cats and we don't know exactly which ones they are we supposed to go door to door?
Okay. No, let's see, what could we do? During Training Grain, we could set up a thing and educate people and tell them, hey, we need cat caretakers in your neighborhood, maybe, if there is. We could do it at the farmer's market. We could send out, we could have our public relations thing to do an email and do a, did you know that, you know, we've got this many, we could use caretakers, it's very easy, blah, blah, blah. Those are the things I'm looking for.
I think that's a great idea, and, you know, and I really, again, I think that there are a lot more caretakers than what have registered. It's just that people are reluctant to come forward, so what you gotta do is make a more inviting environment, I guess, to make people.
The problem, here's the problem. We put that you had to be a registered caretaker because actually feeding the animals, the cats, the problem is if they're not educated properly how to feed them, they're also going to probably be feeding the wildlife, okay? Which
Correct.
could be an actual
Correct.
state breaking the state law. And we're not getting that information and they're not trapping them. And so therefore they're feeding the animals are happy, they're big, so therefore they're breeding more. So we're not stopping that. That's why you hear me focusing on that, because I want that. I want us to be able to trap them. I want them to be neutered and spaded and vaccinated to keep disease down so that we can stop this circle.
Yeah, information or education is definitely a good thing
Right.
in this, because otherwise, no doubt, there are people that are feeding cats and they're not getting them fixed. And
Right.
so that's where you're getting more
So
cats.
that everybody understand, that's where I'm getting at is, we
Yeah.
really need more. We need citizens who really like, you know, these
Right.
cats and stuff to really step up to the plate and do, I guess for better like word, civic duty and be caretakers.
And what you said was exactly right about when to feed and everything. If people leave, you know, pounds and pounds of food out overnight, they're
Right.
gonna attract all kinds of animals that
Right,
they,
causes other ancillary problems.
skunks and everything else, yeah.
Cool. That's where I was getting at, Jose, is that
Yeah.
it just,
Okay.
how do we increase that so we
Okay, I
can?
think we ought to take a look at that as a advisory board, and I think we can definitely do that, some kind of campaign or something.
So we've got a lot of folks in the audience. I would encourage any folks in the audience that are interested in this subject to be a caretaker. Step up, please.
Oh,
Anybody
absolutely.
that's listening and watching tonight, please, if you're interested, be a caretaker. We need more, as evidenced by this data, so.
Absolutely.
All right, keep going, Joe.
Okay. Okay, the stats, and again, you may want to call Jose up for this, but since we've officially started this TNVR, as of August 6, 128 cats in Saginaw, 61 in Blue Mound, for a total of 189. Jose, you want to add anything to that?
No, so when we bring cats in that are caught in traps, if they are young enough to be socialized, they are removed from the TMVR program. Our target is the adult cats. That's where we're having the issues with, okay?
Do you, Jose, you mean socialized? You mean like up for adoption kind of thing? Is that what you
Correct.
mean?
So if we can get a
Okay.
kitten young enough and they're not completely wild,
Okay.
we will take them out of the TNVR program, get them tamed down enough to where we can get them adopted out,
Okay.
and they're placed up for adoption. All the cats that come into the shelter, whether it's dogs or cats, they're scanned for microchips. We have a special scanner specifically for this program right here, so we're not having to reach our hands in there and get tore up. So since we started trapping October 1st, we've had 104 140 completed TNVR. That means that they've been brought in, vaccinated, ear-tipped, spayed or neutered, and sent back out to the field. 18, primarily kittens, were sent to rescue. 15 were adopted out. We caught 6 cats that belonged to somebody, which if citizens are watching this and they're not aware.
Yeah,
if you
RTO,
have
return to owner.
an indoor, outdoor cat, they're required to be registered with animal control and microchip and neutered. Okay? 2 euthanized due to injuries or illness. One of those injuries was a cat got attacked by a dog, had his arm ripped off, and bit the person that picked the cat up. So that cat had to be euthanized and sent for testing. 5 pending release as of August 6th. Those have since been released, and we currently have, I believe, 2 holding.
Okay. Are we, those numbers, are those pretty good? Or that what we were anticipating? Is that higher or lower than we thought going into this? What do y'all think?
It's more than what I thought we were gonna get,
Okay,
honestly.
really?
It was
Mayor,
more,
can I say something real quick? I did a lot of research on TNVR.
Kelly, could you speak in the mic so everybody can hear you? You got good information. I want everybody to hear it.
So with the city of Weatherford, the first year they did TNVR, they did over 700 animals. The first year they did that. So, you know, just in relation to, you know, same size city, that's what they were, you know, that's what they were faced with. So really, it just kind of depends on, you know, city size, you know, what your population is, how many cats people have released, how many have, you know, just gone wild like that. But apparently Weatherford was having a large problem. And
okay.
I think it was like 775 cats their first year. So, you know, just for an idea
Oh.
of where we're at with.
Okay,
you know,
thank you, Kelly.
surrounding city.
Good. Yeah, I was just curious. It sounds like the project had been successful, done what it's supposed to do. It's just more needs to be done. There's a lot more cats.
I think the numbers are very good. I mean, I'm impressed with it.
considering we're operating with 9 cat kennels and 9 traps, I think we're doing pretty good. Both cities are being taken care of. The traps are spread out equally through Saginaw and Blue Mound, okay?
I got
If
one.
we stop
For
getting
fun.
cats in traps in that area, then we move to the next area and start trapping over there. There has
So
been-
that's a question I got. Do we have enough traps?
I was told we weren't spending any extra budgeted money on this, so the money.
Well, I didn't
that
ask what we would get.
The money that I had currently in
Yeah.
our budget for last year, I replaced all the old traps that we needed to have
Mhm.
replaced, which were 9. We had 9 cat kennels that we purchased, but that was because the cat kennels we originally had in the shelter were getting trashed. They were part of the board versus stainless steel. We now have 9 stainless steel feral cat kennels that we use for TNVR specifically.
So let me re-ask the question. We have about 140-some feral cats that we know of. How many of those have we trapped, neutered, and vaccinated? Or is that how many we've trapped, neutered, and vaccinated?
That was on the previous slide.
Yeah, right. I'm trying to figure out whether we have, do you all have enough equipment to keep up with the thing? Or are we getting more requests than we can handle?
One other thing that you really have to think about also is the capacity of the clinic where you're taking them.
Okay.
And that may be a more limiting factor than any of these other things, actually.
So out of 189 cats, 140 were returned to the field.
Okay.
I have a question though, Gabe. I have a question for Kim or whatever. In the budget, we budgeted 15,000 for shades or whatever. And if we don't use that, can we put some of that toward the TNVR?
Toward traps, you mean?
For
Toward
traps or whatever? yeah.
How much is a trap?
They can range anywhere between 100 to 120, depending on where you're buying them from.
Okay.
And how many would you have to have? What would be a number?
I
that-
currently have 9 in 9 cat cages, so when those 9 cat kennels are filled up, we stop trapping until we can get them in, processed, and get them back out to the field.
Okay.
So usually, depending on TCAP, it's anywhere between a week to a week and a half, maybe longer, depending on how full they are.
Brett?
So
Hold on, Nikki, hold
Yeah.
on. Brett?
So if, for the amount of manpower that you have, how many traps could you handle?
I can carry 6 in my truck alone. So we have 3 ACO trucks, that's 18 traps, and you put 6 in each vehicle.
So if you had
So we have 9.
25 traps. That'd give you enough to rotate through and,
Yeah, you still have the problem with where you're gonna house those cats. I only have 9 cat kennels to keep feral cats. Unless I do away with cat adoption and stick all the feral cats in there. Could you imagine that one?
It's complicated, yeah. All right, Nikki, do you have another question?
No, I was just trying to figure out if there was a bottleneck, if we needed equipment or not, and I can't get that answer.
So,
Right.
with what we have funded in our budget, I have enough traps and enough kennel space currently. If I need to add kennel space, I can. I need more room. And that's where I'm running into the issue also.
All right, Mary, you have a question?
So in the event that we ever do get a new animal shelter,
They will have their own wing.
then you would have more room to house the cats. You would have more room than 9.
Correct. So if we got a new shelter, there would be an actual room for feral cats, okay? There will be an actual isolation room. Currently, the cats that we have in the cat adoption, due to people coming in and not listening to us, ringworms spread out throughout the cats. So all the cats that are in adoption have been isolated and treated and no longer have ringworm. We did have a couple of adult cats that came in from TNVR that did have ringworm. We treated those to the best of our ability, and those that we couldn't treat because they were too wild, we did what we needed to do with them. Most of the ringworm that we've seen so far, though, have been in kittens. They're pretty manageable. They're dipped. They're given the antifungal that's required to treat the ringworm. But ringworm is contagious and highly contagious. And if you don't have the proper isolation area, it can spread like wildfire, just like kennel cough in the dog area. Okay? We do not have proper isolation facilities at our shelter. Okay? So we do what we can with what we have.
So,
I hope I didn't make that
so
plain.
if I understand this correctly, it's not the cages or the traps, it's the actual space.
Correct.
So you can't increase the velocity of TNVR until you get a new animal shelter.
If we're staying at the rate that we're going right now, we can handle it.
Okay, so you can handle it.
Correct.
So it has nothing to do with funding, you're good.
I'm perfectly fine handling this program, which I've pretty much been doing all the trapping myself. Come in at 6:30, set the traps, check them twice every 2 hours throughout the day. And then my senior ACO sets up all the medical for the cats once they get caught.
Okay,
And then myself and the other ACO take them back out the field and release them.
okay.
So as far as the legwork goes, ACOs are handling it correct,
Okay.
or handling it currently.
All right, so Joe, I have a question for either one of you guys. So we're 140, let's say we can do 140 a year for next year. Is that going to make a difference going forward in the next couple of years on our cat population?
Yes, it will, because over time, you'll see less reproduction of cats. And I know that several people have signed up to speak, and I think they want to tell you some stories about where they've actually seen how this program works, you know, if they feel they still need to speak.
Like, how long would we need to go before we really see results? Because I think that's some of the frustration, folks, is you can't see results, because I know it takes time, but how long should we anticipate? What's realistic?
Oh, I think seeing results, I mean, you ought to start seeing results right away. I mean, in areas where there've been cats everywhere, and I'm sure you have areas in your town where people drive down the street and they have to dodge cats and,
Right.
you know, everything. You know, and within a year, I mean, you should start seeing cats with tipped ears, which tells you they've been through
Right.
the program. But more importantly, you don't see like these little families of kittens walking around everywhere, and that's one of the examples that I know one of our speakers was going to share is about a mobile home park where he had started out with 200-something cats, and now and tons of kittens, and now you don't see that there. It's, you know, and that's just a perfect little kind of a microcosm of an area for for a pilot to see how it works. It really does work.
Okay. Go, keep going. We've interrupted you. Keep going.
Yeah. Okay, funding, well, we went to this slide, and, you know, obviously the funding's working well. Jose, you might want to mention
So I
that.
want to
bottom line.
add one thing. The feral cats, or dogs, anything, any animal that comes in the shelter that needs to be vaccinated or sterilized, that's not coming out of the budget line items, that's coming out of an actual donation account that was set up. So even though the city is paying for this, technically they're not, because that's money that we recruited back from adoptions.
All right, thank you, Jose. All right, Joe, keep going.
Okay, Jose, this is your chart. You want to talk to this?
Yeah, so there was an issue with cats before I even showed up with animal control, okay? And in the 20-plus years that I was here, even when I first started, I was like, well, what are we gonna do about the cats? What are we gonna do about the cats? There's no ordinance that says cats can't roam free, okay? There is an ordinance that says, however, they're required to be registered, okay, with the city. And now, there's an ordinance that says they have to be neutered. The problem we were having with people getting cats, they take them in as kittens, think they're nice and cuddly and everything, and then when they get older, oh, I can't take care of you anymore, and they turn them loose without being sterilized. That's where we're coming in with the problem. Irresponsible pet owners dumping animals, dumping cats, okay? When we find them, we try to take them in, do what we need to do, and get them right back out in the field with the cats. As far as the irresponsible pet owners go, when we catch them, depending on the situation or circumstances, they're either issued a warning or a citation. Citations don't help when we go to the or go into court and they get dismissed. So if you want to do something for me, let's make it to where irresponsible pet owners that receive citations aren't getting dismissed.
So do we have data on, over the last year, how many of the citations got dismissed?
That would be something I'd have to get from the court.
Well, can we request that from the Freedom of Information Act exactly?
Submit the record. No, just, yeah, we can get that. That's simple.
I mean, the judge is hard by us, so I'm sure we can request,
I don't
look
think
into
it's the
that.
judge dismissing the citations, though. It's a plea deal or something worked out with the prosecutor.
Okay. The judge don't have to accept the plea deal.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not in the scope
We
of
can
this
look into it,
discussion,
though.
but Sure. All right, Joe, keep going. Or Joe, Jose, keep going.
Anything else, Jose? You know, Jose referred to an email that you know, he had seen earlier about a situation where I guess you know, in a neighborhood, a person said that he didn't believe that TNVR was working because there were a lot of cats there, and you know, he saw the cats as being a problem and everything. And I think a key point here is that Jose and his team need to know about those situations so they can go there and do something about it. But to me, when you hear about a neighborhood like that, that's just a perfect example of why TNVR is needed, why it's so important.
So the issue Joe just talked about, after that complaint was received, we patrolled through there more frequently, and I've seen maybe 3 cats running around.
Okay.
2 of them laid up on a porch. When we first started this program, we drove down Lemon Street. There was about 7 or 8 cats sitting on a porch. We stopped, tried to make contact with the lady. It was an abandoned house. Person across the street admitted feeding the cats because she felt sorry for them. So we started our TNVR program at that address.
Great. Brack, you have a question?
Yeah, I want to go back to the slide with the map. There were a couple of points on that one. You don't have to go back to it if you don't want to, but there were a couple of places that were marked no cats. I just wanted a little bit of clarification. Is that indicating that it used to be a colony and is now no longer a colony? Okay.
So the cats that were caught at that address were young enough to be placed up for adoption.
Okay.
But for this program to work, trying to keep stats up, that's why the map was created.
No, I thought it was a very helpful map, and I just wanted people who saw that map, saw no cats. Well, you're not labeling every address no cats here. It's
No, so this,
there was a problem, and it's been taken care of at
these
that
colonies are
location.
set up by streets. So if we trap a cat in the 1500 block of, say, Americana, then we've trapped more than 2 or 3 cats from that address or that street. That's where they're going back to. That is now a colony on that map. If we pick them up from like 300 or 400 amber, then they're gonna get listed in the map as 400 or 300 amber, and that's gonna be that colony right there.
I can say one thing. Y'all know I have feral cats, okay? They're all fixed, they're colony. And I can tell you that mine has not grown, except the people behind me have cats and they don't take care of them.
Are you a cat colony
Yes, I am.
caretaker? So you're one of the 5?
I'm pretty sure I'm.
She passed the test.
So going through the data that's coming up, I noticed on Corin and Blue Mound, there was 30 cats in one area, and then in Normandy, there was 20. Do we have caretakers in those areas now?
So there's 2 caretakers actually on Corin. There's one in the 1700 block and there's one in the 1600 block. There is also a registered caretaker over on Normandy also.
Okay.
And I don't know, is he here?
It takes a minute to catch them, but it does work.
Oh, yeah.
You get them all caught and they're taken care of.
Well, that's why I was looking at, do we need more cages? Because to me, that's the catch pen is getting them caught, get them neutered, get them spaded, and get them vaccinated. Start that, you know.
Be part of the solution instead of the problem.
The cages we use are pretty good size. In that current area where we have those cages at,
Yeah.
they're not gonna put any more cages in there.
Yeah.
And it's the same area as our euthanasia room, so either we put more cats in there or we do away with euthanasia altogether.
I didn't catch that. You either do what or euthanasia?
So our feral cats are kept in a cat quarantine area.
Yeah.
And that's also our euthanasia area. So if we add more cages, we have to get rid of we don't have the room to put more cages in the cat quarantine. It's a small
Oh, yeah, I understand it.
120 square foot building and it's got 4 freezers in
Yeah,
there.
you-
So we're not gonna have the room to add any more cages.
Right, right.
Is that the last chart? Is that-
Yeah.
All right, guys, any other Kelly, come on.
Thank you. I just want to leave you guys with this while you're, contemplating what's going to happen. So when I was doing the research, over a 10-year period, one female cat and her offspring, does anybody have any idea how many kittens they can produce?
14,000 or something.
Yeah, it was on Saginaw Residency page.
Yeah, it's a little over 2 million.
Jeez.
Yes.
That's crazy.
So just, of course, that's not just one cat, that's all her offspring over a 10-year period. If you don't, if we're not doing something now, it's only gonna, continue, so.
Yeah, and let me say one thing there, you said we request to continue this program. Council never said we were gonna stop this program. That was somebody outside on Facebook, so newsflash, not everything you read on Facebook is true, folks. I'm sorry. But council never said that. We said, give us a report.
Yeah,
Give
well-
us an update, so.
Yeah, and
And if there's confusion, I apologize, but that was never brought up. I was surprised when I started getting emails earlier this week, or last week, so.
And if there's stuff that you need, from us to make this a better program, let us know.
Well, I need the citizens to start speaking up to us and quit putting stuff on Facebook. That's not gonna happen.
No, I agree, you're right, absolutely.
I mean, today, someone posted, found this kitten, and nobody gave the solution of, the residents, I'm not saying you
I mean,
guys.
if I don't know
what
there's
to
a
do with it.
problem, I cannot fix
Yep.
it.
So, and
Okay.
somebody said, well, I already got 4 cats that I'm taking care of, I'll take care of another. Well, that's not helping the problem, so.
All right, anything else, guys? I've got a bunch of folks that want to speak, so I don't want to rush you guys off, but I'm going to rush you off.
Yeah, real quickly, we have several members here from our Animal Services Advisory Board. I'd like them to just raise their hand if they would.
please.
To come here tonight, including our licensed veterinarian, Dr. Messler, who is good enough to come out tonight.
Excellent.
To answer any questions.
Oh, Mary, go ahead, sure.
I have one, Joe or Jose, I don't know who would answer this, kind of an unusual question. And I'm very much in favor of the program, and I want it to keep going. So let's say there was a neighborhood, all feral cats, none of them fixed. You got them, they went through the program, they have the tipped ears. And I thought it was interesting to know, because I did not know, those cats will keep real feral cats from coming in. I think that's great.
Yeah.
But then, let's say all the cats that were in that neighborhood, they've been fixed. Now they're back in that neighborhood. and they can't procreate, and they don't, they're vaccinated. But then again, I think there might be some neighborhoods that still wish they weren't there. So it's a much better situation than if they hadn't been through the TNVR program. But is that where we want to encourage people to use these methods?
So I can offer
Perhaps.
deterrents all day long and tell people to come by, or I'll email them deterrents. And if they don't use them, I mean, I can't force them to use them. So,
But it's still a big improvement, even though you may still have a bunch of cats. If they're all fixed and if they're all vaccinated, that's a much better situation than before.
correct. Once the cats go through the TNVR process, they're given a 3-year rabies shot. So they're good on rabies for 3 years, okay? Do you know what the life expectancy is on a feral cat?
Feral cat, well, 3 to 5 years is what is usually said.
Val, you have a question too?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing to that too. The nuisance behaviors of feral cats, mating and yowling and fighting and all that, a lot of that goes away once they're spayed or neutered. So that's the other thing. So I think the other part of this is trying to inform people that have the cat complaints that, hey, this is a way to make things better, and it is possible to learn to live with these cats, even though you may not want to, but.
I think there's one thing that people misunderstand also about those cute little kittens. Those cute little kittens get pregnant really quick.
Yes.
So if you have cute little kittens, instead of petting them and feeding them and without getting them neutered, you're gonna be in trouble. I know, because I'm trying to catch 3 of them right now. They're not mine, but I'm trying to catch them.
All right, thank you, guys. Thank you, sir. All right, so I have a whole list of folks. I'm going to let you all speak. First on the list is Joe. I don't think you need to speak, right? I'm going to take yours and put yours away. All right. Everybody gets 3 minutes. If you come up and say your opinion and say the previous person stole my thunder, that's fine. You don't have to speak the whole time, but in the interest of time, everybody gets 3 minutes. So I'm going to start with Rhonda. Did she leave? Oh, there you are. Come on up. Just everybody introduce yourself and go ahead.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Nyberg. I'm on the Parks and Board Committee, so I'm used to being on the other side. So I'm a little nervous. I just wanted to put out that I heard that this was coming up, that you were discussing maybe getting rid of the program, maybe. I wasn't sure what happened because it was tough trying to get this program into place. I just wanted to tell you I volunteer at the animal shelter, and I see what Jose and the staff has worked hard to get this to a no-kill shelter. Years ago, it was it was a high-kill shelter, and they were killing dogs and cats left and right, and it was heartbreaking. I do not want to go back to being one of those. I do not want to live in a city that has that status, and I hope that you don't too. If you believe that it's just a cat or just a dog, then I encourage you to go to the shelter and volunteer, and not just go and check it out, not for more than an hour, but maybe a couple of hours once a week, whatever, to see, so you know, as council member of this city, what we're talking about as citizens. Having the cats around has eliminated the mice in my neighborhood, or at least in my house. I used to have a problem in my garage when the cats weren't there, when my neighbor was trapping them and getting rid of them. But now that we have a colony in my neighborhood, I don't have a problem with that. They're not dying behind my refrigerator in my garage anymore. So I just wanted to, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. All right, next I have Judy Deller.
Hi, my name is Judy Deller. I'm on the Animal Shelter Advisory Board, and I just want to say, Joe and Jose took my whole presentation, so I'm all for it. This TVNR is a great thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next I have Connie Stout.
Hi, I'm Connie Stout, and I'm with Mid-Cities Community Cats, and I just wanted to give you a little story about why I'm really glad that you guys are not going to get rid of this program and keep it up. Our organization traps about 1,000 cats a year, and a lot of our volunteers, we kind of focus on certain areas, and I just want to tell you a story about an area that I did TNVR about 3.5 years ago.
Could you raise up the microphone so everybody can hear? Thank you.
About 3.5 years ago, I was called to help in a mobile home park, 250 homes in this mobile home park, and there were hundreds of cats and kittens. I did not know what I got myself into, and it took me a year, solid year, to trap and get these cats fixed. The kittens we did, got them socialized, found homes for them. In that year, later the next year, we had just a few cats because most of them were fixed. We got those cats fixed, those kittens, you know, the ones that were kittens out, you know, socialized and adopted. 3 years later, in that third year, we did not see any kittens. Okay, 3.5 years, we saw one mama, one daddy, and some kittens, got them fixed in the beginning of kitten season, which is early spring. We have not seen any more kittens in the last 6 months. So in 3.5 years, we've had no more kittens like we saw when we walked into that mobile home park. So for anybody that thinks it doesn't work, or then I invite you to come with me and help me with these projects, because they do. You will see firsthand, hands-on, that it works. And I wouldn't be doing this if I thought it didn't work, because it's a lot of work to do this. So I'm glad that you guys are keeping the program, because if you don't keep the program, then you essentially will have more cats in the neighborhood, and you don't want to do that. And you don't want the animal control officers having to deal with it and having to put down animals, because that causes them a lot of emotional stress and anxiety. So that's not a good thing either for your employees. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Michelle Schaefer. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Hi, I'm Michelle Schaefer. I actually live in Haltom City, but I want to say thank y'all first off for having TNVR, and especially with the small area you have to do. It's going great, and it's a great program. I hear all kinds of good things from other cities about y'all. So people are paying attention. They see the good work that's going on. But I just wanted to say on my own personal experience, I'm also in Mid-Cities Community Cat. I wasn't when I first started this, but then I got involved. But when I moved in on my street, there were cats everywhere. There was cats getting run over, there were kittens, everything. And I educated myself and found out about TNVR, and I started doing it, and now I feed 4 cats on my street. So it makes a big, big difference. It really does. But that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Next, I have Cindy Ferguson. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Tom Whitworth, I believe. Whitworth. Did I pronounce it correctly? I couldn't read it. Whitworth. Thank you. Welcome.
My name's Tom Whitworth, and my wife and I and daughter moved to Saginaw in 2001, and we're still current residents. My wife and I retired, and little did we know, we got a bigger job now than we had before. We fostered kittens for animal advocates in North Texas, and we also work with the shelter in trapping some of the kittens versus other neighbors who want to complain about it. So long story short, I wanted to initially have stats and everything, but that was already covered. So I just want to thank the council for starting this program, because I personally had to trap a cat. I think I was going to take it to TNR. They said, oh no, you have an appointment. No, I do not. Well, you need to be here before it opens, and in order to get in line, you may as well get here and sleep in your car between 3 and 4 to get one of the 6 slots that's available.
Thank you, sir. All right. Benjamin Guttery.
Benjamin Guttery. I'm on my neighborhood's HOA in Saginaw Springs, and we actually had a cat problem. I wouldn't call them feral, they're the indoor-outdoor cats, which kind of goes live on our neighborhood Facebook page fairly often. And I didn't even know this program was in existence, but we've noticed less cats in the last year. So I just wanted to share that data point.
Thank you, Benjamin. Appreciate it. That is all the cards I have, but I will give, it's not too late. Anybody else want to speak on this topic? Anybody? All in, all done? All right, any other council, any other questions, comments, concerns?
I got a comment. So I was really glad to see the chairman of the animal committee here, and appreciate that you showing up. And I do have one request to you relay back to the animal committee is a task, is if you can work with your committee to come up with how we increase what I was talking about, how we increase the, what do you call it? Caretakers. And how we, you know, and what we can do from a public service thing on the internet. Like he said, I seen the same one, the little kitten, they said feed it milk, give it food. It's absolutely the wrong thing to do. Right? I mean, I think it's 108 degrees. The correct thing to do was pick it up and take it to the animal shelter if it's truly a stray cat. And we need people like you to reply to that and say that and train people the right way. But if you can come up with, you and the committee can get together, come up with, and here's how we increased from 5 to, I don't know, 15, 20, you know, however many we can get, that would be great.
Are
Come
you
back
gonna
to
do
the
that for
council.
us, Nick?
What?
You could volunteer to be a caretaker.
Oh, yeah.
You got lots of cats? I'm just saying.
And the other thing, if we can, you know, work with our public relations people
Yeah.
and get the deterrent information out there
Yeah.
for people, so they don't have to ask for it, it's there. Now, getting them to read it, that's another thing.
You know, and educate people on, by them just feeding them and not being part of the program, they're actually feeding into the problem. They're not solving the problem. Yeah.
All right, Jose, you got something else?
So on the animal control website itself, there is a section for TNVR. Still in the process, on top of all of my other duties, is updating all that information and all the other information that we're having to do on ours, since animal control does take care of that page. So I'll make sure that it's on there.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, be good.
What services are done on the cats?
What services are done?
Never fix the rabies, anything else on your shift, or
No, they're not shipped. We do not ship feral cats.
just rabies?
Rabies, fixed, and ear tick.
All right, so I think we've got a good discussion. I appreciate all the input. A couple things came up that I'm going to point out to folks. Facilities came up. It's on the agenda, so I can discuss this. Facilities came up. We desperately need a new animal shelter. I've got pushback from citizens who don't want to pay for this. Animal lovers, rise up. Email your council members. Post on Facebook that you are willing to pay a little extra taxes for a new animal shelter. It will cost millions. It will. They're not cheap. But if you've been there, and if you haven't been there, I encourage you to go. I've been there multiple times. It is, I don't know, I want to call it a Franken shelter. It's been built up over time, and it's almost end of life, as Jose has mentioned. So we desperately need a new shelter, but it's going to be expensive. People are concerned about finances. So please, animal lovers, email your council members, post it, tell them what you want from the city, because it will cost a lot of money. But I think we desperately need it. So that's my PSA. All in, all done. I think we're done with this one. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Jose. Appreciate it. Thank you, Kelly. Thanks for coming out. All right, now we're going to back to our regular agenda. We're going back to 3A, recognitions, presentations. Y'all don't have to leave, but I mean, if you want to, you know.
Recognize our employees.
Hey, thank y'all for coming. Appreciate your interest in the city. All right, we'll let everybody file out of here. Yes, sir?
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
The new library that we just built, what's happening with the old library?
We are going to repurpose it for more offices and bring a bunch of the folks that are at the animal shelter area into town. So,
I just wanted to
Yeah, yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, so Gabe, presentations, recognitions.
Mayor and council, this is part of the new employee orientation program. We had some of our new employees to see how long they would wait to be recognized. So thank you, gentlemen. I think Ronnie is going to introduce our new folks.
We should start a new program where they have to adopt 3 cats.
Oh, God. We don't want to haze our new employees, so.
Mayor and council, good evening. We have the pleasure tonight of introducing to you guys our new staff to Public Works. To my left, I have Sean Garrett, who is our new fleet manager, and also have Jay Cisneros, who is part of our water and wastewater department, and also Edwin Santiago, who is part of our parks department. We are missing one gentleman tonight, Dwayne Nene. He wasn't able to make it, but yes, that's our.
Welcome, guys. Glad to have you. Welcome to Saginaw. Thanks, Ronnie. Appreciate y'all coming out.
And if you want cats, let me know.
Yeah. All right, Gabe, anything else?
No, just one thing briefly, Mayor. Thanks to the city council and our compensation plan last year, we're attracting certified applicants, whereas in the past in Public Works, we had to hire people, hope that they'd stay with us and train them. So, you know, your good work is bearing fruit. We're very thankful.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. All right, moving on to business. 4A, consideration and action regarding amending the building and buildings regulation ordinance of the city of Saginaw, short-term rental registration. My buddy Larry Little, Chief Building Officer. Come up, brother.
That's okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Is this on? Okay.
It's on.
All right. Part of the work plan was to get the short-term rental ordinance established, and that's what I'm here tonight to do, hopefully. We're in desperate need of it right now, I can tell you. Staff had spent a lot of time putting this ordinance together along, but the final was done by Brendan and his staff, and thank you for that. It's well put together. We're happy with it, pleased with it. I think it's got everything that you've asked for, hopefully. Hopefully you've had time an opportunity to look at everything. I appreciate everybody that had responses. We love that, actually. It really helps things. So I don't anticipate going over the entire ordinance tonight. Hopefully you've looked at it, but I encourage you to support this ordinance. We already have our first short-term rental that we are having issues with. I am in desperate need of this ordinance to pass where I have some teeth to do what we need to do.
All right. Council questions for Larry? Brack? Okay. Questions?
Let's get her passed.
Everybody good? Oh, I'm good. I've read it. I appreciate it. I know a lot of work's gone into this. I appreciate it, Larry. Appreciate you guys going back and forth and being patient with us. So I know these things take time, but
I appreciate y'all.
I appreciate that. So,
Mayor, I'll make a motion
all right.
that we pass as presented, buildings and building
Okay,
regulations
Valerie,
as presented.
have a second? Nick, second? Please cast your votes. I'm trying. It's not giving me anything.
I know, what happened? I did it. You don't do nothing.
Topics? Ah, there you go. I got it. Takes me a minute. Motion passes. Thanks, guys. Good luck.
He's got big, long teeth now.
I say it's been a long time coming, and I appreciate that. All right, so now what time is it? At 7:25, we're in executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.072, deliberation regarding real property. We will return to potentially take action. In regular session. Thank y'all for hanging about. I know it's late. All right, so item 6A, consideration action regarding bid award for 2.86 acres of vacant industrial on 616 South Blue Mound Road. Says Randy Newsom. We discussed this. We had a nice discussion. Thank you for the landowner coming in, the adjacent landowner coming in as well and discussing with us. So we have discussed, I think council wants to, well, I'll talk about council's privilege. I think we want to table this pending further discussions and maybe some other agreements we want to make. But not saying no, just moving forward pending some other information. So I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make
Mayor.
a motion that we table this until the next meeting.
Is the next meeting soon enough, not soon enough? Randy, how long is this going to take to do any? All right, well, Brent left.
We can always table it again.
Yeah, let's, is 2 weeks enough? I don't know if it's long enough. Let's say table it till the next meeting, then we'll discuss then. That's fine. Okay, sorry, Valerie made the motion, Nick second. Please cast your votes to table. Motion table. We will discuss this again and pending further discussions. All right.
So who's going to reach out to,
Brand.
Brent will reach out to you.
Yeah. All right, so that is the end of our agenda, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Brack?
Second.
Valerie, second.
All agree? Raise your right hand.
Motion passes at 8:04. We are adjourned. Thank y'all.